how food impacts our sleep. Does different food make you feel different? Hi, I'm Elizabeth, and today I want to talk about how food impacts our sleep. So I'm going to start with a question for you. Does different food make you feel different? Now, you might be looking at me and saying, obviously, of course it does. Or maybe you're saying, nope, I pretty much feel all the same all the time. I'm going to actually argue that the first answer, obviously, of course it does, is more of the right answer. If you're continuously feeling the same way no matter what you eat, either you're eating a lot of the same foods or you're not quite in tune with how your body reacts to different foods, and I might suggest you kind of tune that dial up a little bit, or turn it up, tune it a little bit, and start paying attention to how you feel. Because the reality is that when we eat a lot of sugar or salad or bread or pasta or steak or potatoes or desserts, or we drink a lot of milk, or we drink a lot of water, or we have a lot of alcohol, or we eat a lot of chocolate, we're gonna feel different. And when I have a lot of steak, I feel very different than when I have a lot of salad. But the other kind of odd thing is that how I feel when I eat a lot of salad is going to be very different from how you feel when you eat a lot of salad. So there's actually a lot that food impacts for us. It makes us feel all sorts of different things for all different reasons. But really understanding what food does to us is important, because not only can food make you feel happy and excited and energized, or bloated and uncomfortable and gassy and indigestion, heartburn, it can also really impact your sleep. And so today I want to dive into kind of the three main ways that food can impact our sleep, the main reasons, and how do you make assessments to determine if food is one of the challenges for you, if sleep is a problem for you. There are a few ways that foods can interfere with sleep. So number one, I'm actually going to lump two of them together because they're kind of similar, is heartburn and indigestion. Oh, heartburn, that wonderful feeling that if you're somewhere over probably 25, you've probably experienced heartburn. So if you're not familiar, heartburn is that literally burning sensation in your chest, in your sternum. It's what it is, it's stomach acid kind of coming up into your esophagus. But heartburn can be a really debilitating thing for some people. So lots of people are medicated for it. Maybe they have to take medications and they eat certain foods. So heartburn can be triggered by all sorts of things like spicy foods, really acidic foods, so tomatoes, onions. In theory, it can be triggered by acidic foods like lemons and oranges and citrusy fruit, although I have to say I've never actually seen that clinically or in people that I work with. So anyway, if you're one of those people, let me know. It can be triggered by really fatty, rich foods, fried foods, fast foods. It can be triggered by all sorts of different things in different people. But that sensation of heartburn is a really common one that will either wake us up or keep us from falling asleep potentially. Heartburn is also worse at night because as you lay down and you're flatter, it's easier for the acid to kind of splash up back up into the esophagus. So one of the recommendations for heartburn at night is that you can elevate the head of your bed a little bit, and that will improve your positioning a little. Heartburn is a really difficult thing in pregnancy for some people. I suffered from terrible heartburn during pregnancy. So if you're experiencing heartburn in pregnancy, that's kind of a different story altogether. But if you're waking up in the middle of the night with heartburn on a regular basis, I highly recommend taking a look at what you eat, because chances are there's some sort of food. It might not be one of the ones I just mentioned, but there's chances are that some sort of food is triggering that heartburn and interfering with your sleep. Number two, late night eating. So I've talked about this before. My recommendation is always to cut off food 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed at night. And there's a very specific reason for this. Our digestive systems are not meant to be working around the clock. We are not meant to be trying to digest food at night. Night's job is for rest and restoration throughout the rest of the body. So we fix muscles and brain and cells and all sorts of tissues and organs and all those things. But digestion is not one of those. Digestion needs to happen during the day. So if you're snacking late at night, if you're eating too close to bedtime, it might be heartburn that you're experiencing as a symptom, but sometimes the timing of when you eat can be really important as well. So if you can stick to 2 to 3 hours before bed, cutting your food off then, that just because you're not digesting food at the time can really help improve your quality and quantity of sleep. And issue number 3 can be food sensitivities. So a food sensitivity, I'm not going to do a huge deep dive into this, but I'm going to try to briefly explain what that might be. A food allergy is an immune reaction to a specific food. So you might know someone who has a peanut allergy. When they eat a peanut, it triggers an immune response that causes a very quick, sudden inflammation. So you might see swelling, itching, hives, redness, swelling's a big one. So that's a food allergy. A food sensitivity is a different type of immune reaction. So still an immune reaction to food, still a lot of inflammation connected, but not so life-threatening and usually not so immediate. So food sensitivity inflammation can cause symptoms in almost any system of the body. We see joint pain, back pain, anything digestive, whether it's bloating, digestion, heartburn can be triggered by food sensitivities, skin issues, so acne, rosacea, eczema, anyway, all sorts of things associated with almost any sort of inflammation in the body can be triggered by food. So if you're eating a lot of food that you're sensitive to, that can be making it harder to sleep at night. The problem is that can make it harder to sleep at night based on almost anything. So it might be that you're eating something that aggravates back pain, or it might be that you're eating something that aggravates eczema that makes you itchy, or it might be that you're eating something that aggravates heartburn. So seeing if there's a connection there between the food that you're eating and how you're sleeping is a really great place to start. My recommendation is always to start tracking. So if you're finding that you're up, either you have a hard time falling asleep or you're up at night just feeling uncomfortable, typically when there's lots of reasons why we might not be able to fall asleep or we might wake up at night. But when they're food related like this, there's often something physical. So either we'll feel heartburn, we'll feel indigestion, we'll feel nausea, we'll feel kind of gross, you'll maybe feel bloated. There's usually a very physical reaction to that. If you're finding that that's something you're experiencing often at night, start tracking. So start by tracking what foods did you eat in the day, specifically what foods did you eat later in the day. So what foods did you eat for dinner, snacks later in the day, etc. What time did you eat the foods? So how close to bedtime was it? Drinking. Alcohol can be a massive trigger for any of these from a food sensitivity perspective to inflammation, indigestion, heartburn, late night digestion, any of those things. So what were you drinking? So tracking what you were eating, when you were eating it, and then how your sleep was. If you're in the habit of having a big pasta meal every Thursday night and you don't sleep so well on Thursday nights, maybe tracking can help you kind of make that correlation or that connection. So I'm going to share with you my no good, very bad foods. So I have 2 foods in particular that absolutely disrupt my sleep. I try not to eat them as much as I can, but they do make their way into my diet once in a while. The first one is red meat, and in particular, fatty cuts of red meat. So I'm not the biggest red meat fan. My husband and my kids love it, so we do have it. If I had my way, I probably would eat it maybe once a month, maybe not even that. But if we're going to have, and to be honest, something like an extra lean ground beef doesn't tend to bother me nearly as much. But if we're going to have like a nice steak or a roast or something like that, I am guaranteed to be up that night feeling just gross. Sometimes heartburn, sometimes just feeling off or not great, but red meat definitely affects my sleep. Another one that really impacts my sleep is bread or pasta or anything made of wheat. I don't actually eat a lot of pasta, don't eat a lot of bread either for this very reason. But if I'm going to have like bread with dinner or pizza or something like that, I guarantee I'm going to be up at some point in the evening and the night with heartburn is usually my symptom for that. So it doesn't mean I don't eat them. It just means that I'm aware of what the triggers are. It means that I try not to eat it as often as possible. And it means that I'm kind of adapting for that. So like I mentioned, the best place to start for this is to track your food, track your sleep, and see if you can kind of watch for any sort of connections or correlations between the foods that you're having and the sleep at night. It's really, really common for these things to be connected, sometimes in very obvious ways, sometimes in less obvious ways. But if you think that food might be a problem for you and interfering with your sleep and you don't really know where to start, let me know. Comment below, send me an email or message, head to my website or any of my social media channels, because this is something that I can really help with and I can help you kind of narrow things down. So reach out if you need some help. I'm curious, do you have foods that you know are going to make you not sleep very well at night? Or are you suspicious that there are foods, but you can't quite pinpoint which ones? Anyway, let me know if you have any questions or comments. I'd love to hear from you, and I hope you have a great day.